Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you're like me, you get the thrill, the excitement of finding the next profitable products for your Amazon FBA. It's simply, the hook that gets you into the game. Before we dive headfirst into sourcing, it's really crucial and important to have a game plan to make sure that you are working hard and smart at the same time. Because we know jumping in anything can be risky without a plan, right? So yeah, you see, it's cool to see Rambo get into a gunfight without any preparations planned. It just goes in there, right? That's why Rambo, but that's kind of like the movies, right? So that's why in this video, I'm gonna go over the 3 sourcing tips that's gonna help you, mitigate risk, how to scale your sourcing products, and lastly, how to achieve that long-term success. And for those who are new here, hi, my name is Lester. I've been an Amazon seller now for 3 years, and I've sold over $2 million in total sales. And I used to have a 9-to-5 job before doing this full-time. And this is how the YouTube channel kind of started, where I started to share my experiences, tips for someone that's new or getting into it, so that way they can achieve the same thing as what I had gone through the past couple years. So there are usually 2 common risks that you run into as an Amazon seller when you start to source products. And the first one is finding a reputable supplier where you can purchase products from, and that can provide authenticity if Amazon does ever question those products. And the second one is running to some sort of infringement from intellectual property from different brands or suppliers that can give you risk of your Amazon account in general. Because if you don't take care of your Amazon seller account, if that's not in good standing, it can lead to deactivation, which it doesn't matter if you find the best products that can give you 1,000% ROI if you can't sell on Amazon. So prioritizing and mitigating risk for your Amazon seller account should be the #1 priority all the time before sourcing products. So there's a blog here by Profit Guru that I found super useful, and I'm sure you as well. I'm gonna link it down below. The blog talks about what brands you should never resell on Amazon, because you can run into those different types of risks. Just because Amazon allows you to sell it doesn't mean you have the approval from the brand itself to sell. So that's kind of one thing you need to know about Amazon, especially if you're reselling, is that there are certainly risks you can do, but there's also ways to feel safe as long as you got the right products from the right supplier and able to provide that, usually in good terms of keeping your account safe. So this website right here, Profit Guru, is super useful in terms of seeing some risk here of which brands you can sell or not. Obviously depends on your appetite, right? They kind of list about some risk here, and aggressive high risk, which is in the red here. It's something that you should avoid as a new seller. And some risk, moderate risk, this is something that you can play down the future, but this website here is definitely a guide because it goes through a lot of the different brands. When you're sourcing, it's good to kind of maybe say this is your favorite and just hit Control F to find if that brand is on this listing and see what the risk is. Another way you can do is use a software. This one's called an IP alert right here. So whenever you are sourcing, this little thing will pop out here if a brand had submitted a intellectual property complaint to Amazon or something like that, and it will pop up right here, right? So this tool is super useful because it just simplifies your process when sourcing. When you see that, you can certainly be like, okay, I'll avoid it. So that way you don't have to dig further and spend more time when you don't necessarily need to. Another tip how you can mitigate some risk in terms of your Amazon seller account is to spread out your purchases, right? Like, you always hear the old word sayings like, don't put your eggs in one basket. And that's a great example here. Is like, when I first started, I just purchased so many different types of products, different brands, that I kind of learned different categories out there. And we're going to talk about further later how to find your niche, because by purchasing different things, you kind of figure out like what you are leaning towards with, what are you finding success. So I think that's really important. And in the future, we're talking about how to find your niche is spread it out, do a small test buy, and test buy can be between 5 to 15 quantity items. It really depends on your budget and all that stuff, but highly recommend for you as a new seller is always to do a small test buy. Another thing you want to do is do your diligence in terms of finding suppliers, especially if you do an online arbitrage, just because there's so many websites out there that some things can blur, right? Especially if a website you haven't heard before, it looks really good, but it might steal your information, you know, stuff like that. Or worst case scenario, send you a fake product that you can't get, you know, authenticity to provide if Amazon does ever question it, just because, you know, that's what you want at the end of the day, is you want to have documents that can back it up. So one website that I use, my team has used, is, you know, a scam advisor website right here. Basically what you do is, if you are sourcing from a specific website, for instance, that you haven't heard of, you can paste it over here and hit search, and it's going to tell you, you know, everything you need to know on the website. And what's cool about it, it's a free tool, so you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of different websites that you can use to kind of determine these types of things, but that's definitely one website to see if it's going to be a scam or not. For example, here I just pulled up, you know, a Google search on how cheap Hoka is out there, and this is one of the first few ones. And sometimes if the price is too good to be true, most likely it will be, like 888lots.com. I've never heard of it. I don't know if you have, but again, the website looks legit. I mean, they even have login for Amazon here, but again, just look at the prices, like, you know, you're getting crazy amount of discounts, right? So I don't know, like I would look up like the different address even in there and stuff like that, just to double check. So there's a lot of things and hacks you can do in order to do your diligence when looking up for a supplier. And I guess it could be as simple as just copying their address here, right? And just typing it in Google search and see what it comes out. Like, I've run into crazy things. Like, I type in someone's address and it was like literally a house. It wasn't even like a commercial address, like for a big website. So it's simple as just searching for address on Google. You find a lot of information from that supplier if they're legitimate or not. And the last thing you need to do to mitigate risk is to look at historical data that's available to you. And the software that, you know, I love to use here is Keepa, and I've made a lot of videos in this channel about how to use Keepa. So if you wanted to level up your sourcing skill, definitely check out the Keepa videos I have on the channel. So this is a Adidas sneaker here, just for the example. That I've found here is that using the historical data, information, numbers, they don't lie, right? That's why they have information for us to make an important decision, or not important, I would say educational decision, versus a risk where we're just shooting in the blank, right? We're just guessing. Because as you can see right here, there was a spike in terms of sales because Amazon, as you can see right here in the orange, is the main seller in the listing. However, they do go out of stock, where you can see the blank here, right? And where the kind of like the blue right here, that's the new seller that was selling on Amazon. Yeah, the price did go up at 116 where it peaked, but also Amazon went back in stock. So if I am sourcing this product here, I always ask of like, what is the worst case scenario or break even price for me? Because right here, it looks like Amazon even has gone to $30 here. So, you know, I don't want Amazon to go back to $30. Yeah, it only happened a couple ones here, right? Or actually, like, yeah, one time, but still, that's enough for me in the past 3 months. But again, they're consistently 75 here. And if we're looking at Seller Amp as our main software here to calculate product, is that we can use the data here, right? The current prices the past 30 days, 90 days, 180, or all is around, let's say the past 90 days, 67 bucks, right? That's the 68 bucks. That's the buy box there. It's the average price the past 90 days, even though there was a spike here and here. But in order to mitigate our risk when we're sourcing, we need to make sure that we're finding the product $47 or below in order to be profitable at the average number of $68 selling price, as you can see right here. Just using simple data like that and using Keepa visually, like where we are looking and we're filling in the gaps in terms of the pricing. But you can see right here, Amazon's still the dominating buy box person in there with $68 as the average price, combining, you know, 75 and the peak of 116 here. And again, if you can source it below this, you will be in good shape. So once the risk out of the way, we're into the part 2 here on how you can start scaling your business and source more. So now we've gotten all the mitigation risk out of the way. It's an important part right now. Time into how you can start scaling your sourcing efforts and really committing into which one's going to work for you. So the first thing I would say here is obviously do what's continually working for you. So that's why test buys are important, because we have a great sample of different products or brands that we know that's what's working for us, right? So if you buy, different products and stuff, that's how you can find your niche, because you're just following the rabbit trail where you find a lot of success. Or it can be simple things, that products that comes naturally at you, maybe that you enjoy more sourcing versus the others. Like for instance, for me, I grew up playing sports and stuff like that, so getting into the sports outdoor category was a lot easier. I'm already familiar with a lot of the bigger name brand products, or even some that people aren't familiar with. Like for example, like in the running world, there's a lot of shoe brands out there that people don't know aside from the popular ones, right? Like Nike, Adidas, but also did you know there's Saucony? Did you know there's Hoka? Did you know there's On Running? So on and so forth. So that's why it's really important to use and narrow down these categories and brands once you start after doing some test buys, because that's how you're going to expand, and each knowledge you gain basically just compounds and adds up. And that goes with categories, right? Once you narrow it down, and also just a brand itself. So for example, if you enjoy beauty, like you have a Fenty beauty product, like what other celebrities or brands that might have their own beauty product that are popular as well? Like I know Kylie Jenner had one, or Lady Gaga has one, so on and so forth. So that kind of just gets your brain growing in there. Just an easy example you can think of when looking at, for example, beauty products. Another way you can scale your efforts is, building loyalty into a certain supplier. So once you start doing a little bit of test buy, figure out which products start to sell, now you're kind of sourcing, or should be sourcing, the same types of suppliers out there, whether that's 4 to 5 websites, however it may be, but you get into the same rotation there, and little things you'll know is start to add up. Is like you'll kind of know the patterns or trends when they're having sales, especially if you've signed up to their newsletter or sign up to their text alert. You kind of just know what the routine is, and you kind of start timing these products, especially if you can buy it over and over again, right? Like that, because you only do the work one time, you already found the product, and then you only just purchase it when they have a sale going on again. So it's really important to keep track of that type of things when you start to source these products from the same suppliers. And one huge tip here that you can definitely take away, if this might be the only thing in this video, is that when you're starting, start with one type of sourcing method or strategy, because it can be so easy to get distracted. I know I did when I first started. I started with retail arbitrage, like selling used textbooks, right? College textbooks. So I went to like different thrift stores, Goodwill and stuff like that. And I did that for a couple months, and I got really good at it because that was the only thing I was doing. But then when I transitioned to doing online arbitrage, when I'm sourcing different products, websites and stuff like that, things were starting to get scattered a little bit. Started to do like storefront stocking method, reverse sourcing method, sales method, so on and so forth. It's a lot of things. So my suggestion to you is just like, stick to one thing. When you need to kind of get familiar with it, get better at it, kind of know the ins and out, then you can start exploring or playing with the other sourcing strategy. Because if you do everything at once and not really sticking to it, you're kind of spreading yourself thin and not being able to put a focus or where you can really make a huge impact, or where you can find an advantage for yourself. So part 3 is reflecting and keeping your standards. So what I mean by that is, reflecting is once you start to source, especially if you're trying different things, different brands, suppliers, so on and so forth, doing test buys, is going back into your purchases, reflecting basically, because that's how we're gonna find out by going into reverse, is to see if it was a good purchase or not, because that's how we can start to replicate and really making our business a lot bigger than what it was. Because if we, for example, have found success in terms of sourcing beauty products versus like grocery items, then we can switch our effort a little bit into that category, and that's how we can naturally start to find what we enjoy, how we can start finding success, and basically our own niche at the end of the day. And for me, that's how it naturally happened, right? Like, yeah, of course I started with selling used textbooks and stuff, then I started to gravitate towards baby products, didn't work out. Toys didn't really work out. Then I started to beauty products, grocery, sporting good items, and start to expand. And slowly, that's how I started to find my niche. But it wasn't for a little bit of trial and error. That's how we can find it, because when we first started, yeah, we just want to find the best things out there, flip as much. But again, it's also finding a rhythm in terms of sourcing where you can really get going, and then that's where you can really start to ramp up, see a little bit more success. You'll be able to spend more money in terms of your inventory as well. And a huge important thing to keep in mind as well is setting a standard for your ROI, your return on investment, just because that is going to allow us to continue to let our business, go in the long term, right? Like, we start a business because at the end of the day, we need to make money, right? So that's why we can't really forget that part. So it's important to set a standard, and as a new seller, a great rule of thumb is to look for products that will net you a return of 30% or above on different products out there. Or if you're sourcing 10 products out there, you want at least 8 out of the 10 products that's going to net you positive, and you might have 1 or 2 losers out there, because again, no one's perfect, right? Like even me and other sellers out there, there's just some things that we can't control, whether Amazon goes back on the listing, whether it's a huge seller that has a lot of stock, so thus they were able to get like a lower buy cost and just lowering the price, something that we can't control, right? But also just having a good standard that it's okay to pass on some products because they have a lower ROI, and just building that good habit can lead you to success in the future, because you want to do this for a long time, right? Not just for a quick buck when you're in and you're out. You want to make this long lasting, because it can really give you a lot of benefits, whether that's if you're just starting this part-time, can lead you to your full-time job, or maybe your freedom to pursue your endeavors out there. And also being able to source these products at a lower buy cost and a higher margin is that it allows you to have room to lower your price, because it's a lot easier to lower your price than to raise it, right? Like, that's why they have sales going on, or coupons or discounts, because it's always enticing to someone to purchase something if you can lower the price enough for them. And so that's why it's really important to set that standard in the beginning. And to wrap everything up, guys, it's really important, a lot of these things you'll learn by actually doing it and constantly having the mindset of long-term and constant improvement, because with Amazon we constantly have to sharpen our blades, right? And with Amazon, I don't think there's a ever-ending ways to sharpen our blades, because there's always a dynamic, adapting environment out there. And as long as you go with the flow, stay on top of it, and that's pretty much like the name of the game, it pretty much rinse and repeat. As long as you're very fluid and still be able to adapt. And that's pretty much how I've been doing the past couple of years. And we can't just stay still and be happy for where we're at. It's constant growth, attending a trade show, a conference, taking a new course, whatever it may be. And if you're not subscribed to our Discord channel, you should, because we have other Amazon sellers out there that might be asking the same questions, allow you to network. We also have a free newsletter for you to come join. The link is down below. And guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you learned a lot. And if you want to learn the different sources of my favorite ones on how to find products, check this video out right here. Thank you so much. See you later.